Hello guys, this is I'm going to cover today lab number 1, which is just general intro to anatomical terms, and we're going to talk a little bit about mitosis. So the first set of words we're going to learn are directional terminology. So as you can see, superior shows that it's something towards the head end or upper part of a structure or the body above. So the head is superior to the abdomen, the head is superior to your knee, the head is superior to your pubic region. Those are some good examples. For inferior or caudal, that just means away from the end or toward the lower part of the structure of the body below. So the navel is inferior to the chin. The legs are inferior to the chin. Your arms are inferior to your mouth. I guess in this picture, since he's in, his hands are down, right? And then we're going to talk about anterior, which is towards or at the front of the body, in front of. So the breastbone is anterior to the spine. Your mouth is anterior to your spine. Your nose is anterior to your spine. For posterior, it's towards the back of the body, behind. So your heart is posterior to the breastbone. Your spine is posterior to your heart, to your liver, stuff like that. And then medial towards the midline of the body on the inner side of. So see how we cut this guy in half right here? See how we cut this guy in half right here? Well, that's the midline. So stuff that's closer to this would be medial. So the heart is medial to the arm. What else would be medial? I'm trying to think. So the heart is medial to the arm. So if you would have like a fracture on the medial side of the femur, that would be the side towards the midline, right? So, but if you'd have a lateral fracture on the femur, then that would be on the outside. So basically, I'm going to draw a femur real quick. Just, it's going to be ugly, but whatever. So this is your femur, right? Just and then this would be like, this would be a person right here. This is their face. And then their body. And then whatever. And then we would draw the midline right here. So this is the midline. It's cutting him in half. So then, if you would have a fracture on this part of your femur, that would be a lateral fracture because it's away from the midline. But if you would have a fracture on this end of the femur, then it would be a medial fracture because it's closer towards the midline. So that's just a really good way to put that. So now we'll go to the next slide. So now we'll talk about proximal and distal. So proximal is closer to the origin of the body part or the point of attachment of a limb to the body trunk. So this one is different from superior, because don't get these confused, because proximal basically is talking about an attachment, right? So like, say you have, again, I'm going to draw some ugly pictures here. So that, say you have your humerus, right? These are ugly, but it's whatever. So I'm just going to draw the person to just so y'all. So that's a person. And just ignore that. So then you have your radius. And your ulna. They're ugly, but whatever. So your radius and your ulna, right? So say, and I guess your scapula right here. That's your scapula. So say that you, we're going to talk about the humerus just in terms of this. So this is the origin, this is the attachment point, right, for the humerus. It attaches right here to the scapula. So this is the origin of the humerus, right? So this is where this ball and socket joint meet. So basically, if I say I had a fracture right here, right? Where would that be? What kind of fracture would that be? It would be a fracture that's farther from the origin of the body part or the point of attachment. So this is where the humerus attaches to the scapula, right? So this is a distal fracture of the humerus. And then say we had a fracture right here, then that would be a proximal fracture, and it would, to be more specific, it would be a proximal medial fracture, right? Because we're closer towards the midline. So make sure you know how to combine all these words and stuff. So we got proximal down, and then we got distal down. So now we'll talk about superficial and external, right? So, or superficial, external, and then we'll talk about deep internal. So these are pretty easy, basically. So I'm going to use the laser pointer. So the skin is superficial to the skeletal muscles, so your skin is above those skeletal muscles, right? I guess I'll draw just a little. So say this is a bone in your arm, right? Well, skin, this is like the skin, right? This is your skin, and this is your fingers or whatever. It's hideous, but you get the point. So your skin is superficial to this bone right here, right? Because it's above it. So say we draw a, so we draw another person, an actual person right here. So say we draw a heart, right? There's a heart inside this person. Not anatomically correct, but whatever. It's a heart. So that heart is deep inside. It's deep inside in comparison. It's deep in comparison to the skin, right? It's under the skin. So that's pretty easy. So let's go. So now we'll talk about the planes of the body. These are, I pretty much don't really know how to tell you all these besides just kind of y'all just memorizing them, but the first plane is the median mid-sagittal plane. So we're cutting this lady in half. And so she's getting cut straight in half. And then frontal coronal plane, we're basically cutting her in half the other way. So like this, which this is like this. And then the transverse plane is just, I guess, separating the top and the bottom. These are pretty easy. Just make sure to memorize them. And then we'll talk about anterior surface anatomy. So these So we're going to talk about anterior surface anatomy and posterior surface anatomy. So basically, we're just going to memorize all of these here, right? We're going to memorize all these things here. A good way to memorize these would be perhaps take a screenshot right now of this picture and then make a copy of it, print it out, white out all these words, and just go and try to write them out without looking at your notes, you know. So the way I could ask this on a quiz is, it'll show you, it won't show you this exact guy, right? But it'll show you a model that's in the lab, there's a picture of, and then it'll point to that region, and it'll be like, what region is this? So you'll say it points to the skeleton in the classroom, and it points to his, like towards the knee, right? Well, that would be the patellar region. So again, take a screenshot of this and just go over it with your friends. Perhaps you can get you and a friend and like point to each part and quiz each other, right? So that'll be the same for the posterior surface anatomy, the stuff on the back. Get a friend and point to different things on the body, and that's a good way to quiz each other. Or just print this baby out and white out all the stuff, and then just try to fill it in. So here are just maybe the pictures that perhaps will be on your quiz, and where there's going to be an arrow pointing to each, like these things, like, so I could point to the eye and it'll be like, what is this right here? So it'll be the orbital region, or just different parts of each of these, right? So on the quiz, these will probably be on there, and it'll have an arrow to like one of the spots, and you'll have to know what region. So now we're going to shift gears towards the body cavities. We have the dorsal body cavity, which consists of the cranial cavity, and it has the brain, and then the vertebral cavity, which contains the spinal cord. Both of these together make the dorsal body cavity. And then we have the ventral body cavity, which is composed of the abdominopelvic cavity and the thoracic cavity. So on a quiz, this will probably just be, it's not going to show you this exact image, but it's going to show you I'm going to show you the pictures, but it's going to show you, like, it'll be like, what cavity is this? And what cavity is this? And what cavity is in here, right? So just make sure you know that. So here, I'll go back to this if you guys didn't get a good look at it. But also a good way is I would print this out, white out all the words, and try to go through it. And then this is the abdominopelvic quadrants. So these are 4 different quadrants that perhaps there will be an arrow pointing to one of the quadrants, and you'll have to identify it. So, and it won't be on this image, it'll be on perhaps this, right? It'll split it into the 4 quadrants, and then I could point here on the quiz, here, 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 and you'll have to match it up with one of these, okay? And then here's the root words. Again, I'm not going to go through these all because they are in Canvas. You can download that page. So you'll have to know one of these words, the root word. This usually will be provided to you. So you'll need to know, you'll have to know one definition for each word, right? So I could be on the quiz, I could say, I'll give you the root word circ, and you'll have to give me either around or about. You don't have to give me both. So I'm just going to go through these really quick. Like, again, a good way to study these would be just to write them down, maybe as much as you can until you memorize them. Maybe do flashcards. I'm not a flashcard guy, but that works for a lot of you guys. Maybe record yourself saying all these words on your voice memos on your phone, and then record you saying all of these words and a definition, and then perhaps listen to it on your way to school, while you're walking to class, while you're working out, running. Maybe have it playing in the background while you're watching TV, whatever. Just make sure you learn these words before the quiz. So now we're going to talk about mitosis. So we're going to talk about just the different stages of mitosis. Give me 1 second. So, I'm not going to really hit you hard on interphase. That's not really considered a part of mitosis, but just interphase is just a lot of like growth for the cell. We synthesize a lot of things. We make the mitochondria, the ribosomes, the ER. There's a restriction point. During synthesis, the cell replicates its genetic material so that each daughter cell will have identical copies. And G2 is the post-synthetic gap. During the G2 stage, the cell passes through another quality control checkpoint. Your DNA has already been duplicated, and the cell checks to ensure that there are enough organelles in cytoplasm to divide between two daughter cells. So basically this is just making sure that the cell's good to go for all these steps. So all that I said just now for interphase, you don't have to know. I just kind of threw it out there just so you guys know what's going on. But the stages of mitosis are prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and cytokinesis. You can group these will be grouped together on the quiz if I give you a picture. If I give you this picture right here, which is showing telophase or cytokinesis, if I could be like, what stage in the cell cycle are we? And you could put either one, and I'll give you full credit. So interphase is the first stage we're going to talk about, and again, it's just where the DNA is kind of just all unraveled and stuff, and very messy, and you have your nucleus and your nuclear envelope intact, so not much really going on here. So if you see a cell that looks like all stringy like and there's not really any structure, then it's going through interphase. And then prophase is where that nuclear envelope disappears, right? And we're going to start making chromosomes. So this DNA that's all messy here, see all this purple, this becomes more organized into a chromosome. And you're going to condense this chromatin into chromosomes, and the centriole pairs separate. These are centrioles, and you know how they were here first? Well, they separate and they move towards opposite poles of the cell, and then these centrioles release, they begin to form spindle fibers, which are made of microtubules, which you don't need to know, but these microtubules attach to the centromere in the chromosome. So the centromere is right here, and then kinetochores appear at the centromere, and kinetochores are protein structures located on the centromere that serve as attachment points for the spindle apparatus, which you don't need to know. The only thing y'all need to know is that during prophase, see how here there's really not much, like it's just all like kind of stringy to where you can't differentiate anything. Well, here, see how it's a little bit more, there's a little bit more order, stuff is all over the place still, but it's still kind of, you see like stuff that's more condensed, right? So these are these chromosomes that are condensed. And so for the most part, for this class, just know that prophase, you're going to have compact condensed chromosomes, and the cell's going to look like this. And then metaphase is where you make this metaphase plate or an equatorial plate. And this is when, again, these chromosomes line up in the middle of the cell. So this is how that looks like, right? And then for anaphase away, right? So this is when these chromosomes split apart and are pulled towards opposite poles of the cells. They become sister chromatids. And the cell, you see how the cell is kind of like expanding a little bit? So, well, the cell is going to keep expanding and keep expanding and keep expanding and expand until it becomes the telophase and cytokinesis stage. So see how like the cell was pushing, both these sides were pushing away from each other? Well, them pushing away from each other created this cleavage furrow. And this is basically, you guys know what cleavage is. So this is cleavage furrow. And this is where the nuclear envelope begins to come back again. The chromosomes are going to become all, this way again. The cells start, I guess a good way to say it is like the chromosome DNA relaxes and becomes all windy and undistinguishable again. And this is where you see two different cells splitting apart. Don't get it confused with anaphase. See how here you can't tell that there's two different cells about to make or form, and see here how you already make two different cells. So don't get these confused, because it's still one cell. This is forming two new cells. And here's just some examples. The nucleus right here and the nucleolus on the inside. And then chromatin is everything except the nucleolus. Again, so this would be, we would be right here, probably interphase. That looks like anaphase right here. This probably looks like prophase, right? Because we don't see like in this right here, which would be interphase. It's all janky and unwound, and here we see a little bit more clear. They're trying to condense, right, and form those chromosomes. So this right here would be metaphase, because right they're all in the middle and they made a line, right? This right here would be a prophase, I believe. Telophase right here. See, because we're forming a cleavage furrow, you're starting to see two different cells, right? So metaphase, middle, the chromosomes meet in the middle, metaphase. This, I believe this is anaphase, right? Because you can't tell that there's two different cells, so it's still in the same cell. So anaphase. And this would, see how we see two different cells here? Well, this would be telophase cytokinesis. And then here I think this would be prophase. And right here, this would be like interface because this is all janky and this is a little bit more defined. Just some more examples for y'all. This is a good example of telophase / cytokinesis. Interphase, I believe. And that's it, you guys. If you guys have any questions, just make sure you can email me, and I'll make sure to clarify anything up for you. Thank you.